Hello there. So, Bitcoin and gold have both hit last week's target prices. Where will it go this week? Stay tuned to find out. Hello, my name is Han. I am the Chief Market Analyst at ByBitLearn. Thank you so much for joining this live stream, which we do every day here on YouTube and X. So, we're going to dive into the charts here very, very quickly. But first, let me just make sure we're both live on X. That's Bybit_learn. And also on YouTube, that's the YouTube for ByBitLearn. Yeah, make sure you tap on the live tab to make sure that we're actually joining. Do give us a shout out in the chats. Feel free to let us know if this is your first time watching or you've seen these before. And here's a bit of homework. All right, for those of you who are joining for the first time, keep me in check. Check out the charts that we have shown in the past, and also the different levels that we've seen, and keep me accountable for the various setups that we had mentioned. So for those of you who are joining right now, I see we are live on YouTube. Well done. Welcome. So again, last week's target prices for Bitcoin and gold have been hit. Today we're going to discuss where to next for these two very popular assets, and we'll see what else the week has for us. Okay, so let's get right to the charts. I am seeing that we are live indeed on YouTube, and making sure that we are live on X right now, seeing that we have issues there. All right, so bear with me here, folks, before we get to the charts. Yes, we are live on X as well. Yeah, welcome. All right, cool. So let's get right to the charts. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second here, folks. All right, here we go. So this is the Bitcoin chart here. Okay, so recall that last week, from actually a couple of weeks ago, we had already highlighted the 21-day simple moving average as a target. Bitcoin on November 11th got really close to it, within 0.2, 0.3% of the target, before then coming back down, right? So you can see that as a resistance level, something that we've been highlighting a lot. Resistance, think of a ceiling, prices hit it, then come down, as opposed to a support, which is a floor, prices hit it, then come back up, right? Now, to the downside, we had highlighted the 95,000 level again, from a couple of weeks ago, and sure enough, on that Friday or Saturday, I believe, it actually hit it right there, and then just kind of hovered around there, support, right? And that's where it hung about for Sunday. That's 15th, and then right now coming back down, right? Whether or not it will keep going down, I think that remains to be seen. So that's for Bitcoin for you. Let's just do a bit more of a deep dive here, right? So again, I think what's telling here is that prices have now meaningfully broken below that 100,000 level, and this was an absolutely crucial marker for Bitcoin prices, because this kind of held up that multi-year bull market, or that multi-year of gains that we've seen since 2023, right? So now that that's been broken, of course, the very valid question is how far lower it could go. Now, this was a question posed to me in the last Friday's live stream, and I had put a question mark next to 89,000, because I wasn't quite sure. I wanted to see over the weekend how it would behave around the 95,000 level. Although, to be fair, it is still showing a bit of indecision there. This candlestick, let me zoom in right here. This is a pattern, what you call a doji, that kind of shows that there is some indecision, okay, where the prices should go higher or lower. Now, again, this is the daily time frame. So each of these blocks or candlesticks shows how Bitcoin performed in that single day. Okay, and you can look it up, right? Candlesticks, how to read candlestick patterns, and we've got some articles as well on that. But right now, you've got this doji right now. I still want to see how it performs. But if there is meaningful declines, I think we're going to earmark 89,000 market for today. This is when we're going to mention it right now. And the reason I highlighted 89,000 is because if you read this article that we had published on the ByBitLearn website, we had highlighted this, and this is some research done by some really good folks, about how this is the pain point for many of those who had invested into Bitcoin ETFs, right? So if this is their average buy-in price, 89,000, they may either want to try and defend it, i.e., buy the dip, or if there is still risk off sentiment. In other words, markets are fearful. They don't think they want to risk their capital further. They might just see that as an exit point, right? So that's the next level to the downside that we'll be looking at. Also, if you look at the past price performances, so you can see here, let me just kind of move this chart a little bit. 89,000 is where you had support way back in, I think this was January 13th, 2025. And then also some resistance action that we saw around mid-April, early April and late March, right? Some resistance action there. So based on those rationale, okay, both as a key support or resistance level that we've seen earlier this year, and also a potential pain point for those who had bought Bitcoin ETFs, which we know is very, very popular, right? So I think that could be perhaps the next target here for those looking if prices for Bitcoin actually moves lower. Okay, so that's a justification for 89,000. Now, of course, to the upside, you've got various technical indicators that you got to keep an eye out for. 95,000 to 100,000. This is a bit like no man's land, like I guess, in terms of this setup here. No, but of course, if you really want to get granular, you can draw this downward trend line that catches this low, and this low, which has now interestingly become a resistance from yesterday's candlestick. Right now, of course, that's just one candlestick. We have to see repeated behaviors of it bumping up against that resistance level. But if this is a major resistance, then you got to overcome it before potentially grabbing the 100,000 psychologically important level again, right? And this is something that we had mentioned in our article that we published on Friday as well, and I'll show it to you in just a bit, right? About how if there are bulls, as in like those hoping to capitalize on prices moving higher, bulls, right? So for bulls, they really need to make sure that they can reclaim 100,000 for Bitcoin prices to really at least give themselves some breathing room. Okay, because otherwise right now the sentiment across cryptos and even for Bitcoin has been quite bearish. That means it's had an easier time moving down than going up. Okay, so those are the key levels that you really got to look out for. Really to the upside though, like you need another daily close above 100,000 before we could potentially see the 21-day simple moving average as resistance once more, like we saw not just a couple of weeks ago, but also in late October, early November, right here. Okay, that you can see on the chart. Some resistance here as well, and way back in September as well. Okay, so past behavior kind of informs markets how these prices could move forward, or at least key areas of interest that we'll keep an eye out for. Okay, and don't worry, in just a bit I'll show you a nice table that shows both gold and Bitcoin side by side and kind of spells it out in text form about some potential setups that you can keep an eye out for over the course of this week. And again, markets move fast, right? So the scenarios that we saw that I had highlighted from a couple of weeks ago, those were filled very, very quickly within a few days. So I know, well, for those of you watching live, thank you on YouTube and X, but then I know many, many more of you actually watching after the live stream, which is fine. So that's why I keep things kind of loose, keep it on the daily time frame. So hopefully those setups would remain in play while you are watching, or when you are watching it. Okay, all right, so that's Bitcoin real or okay. Oh, something very, very important here, folks. I've highlighted this big thing that you probably noticed right off the bat, right? This is a death cross. Now it's a technical event where and it's a very textbook formulaic and historical event, whereby when you have the 50-day simple moving average, this is a very widely followed technical indicator. Okay, 50-day simple moving average, that's SMA. When it crosses below the 200-day simple moving average, SMA, quite well historically what you see is then further declines. Okay, this event, this death cross, when it happens, more often than not it spells further declines for that particular asset. Now this technical event is not unique to Bitcoin. Technical traders can also rely on it for potential signals across asset classes, right? You see that for say gold, S&P 500, right, whatever. So technical traders who like to look at these indicators and just look at the charts, this is something that is at least very often quoted. Okay, so the fact that it happened here recently, but then we've got a bit of a doji here. Yeah, we'll see whether traders actually take confirmation from the death cross. But long story short, no, we are seeing a death cross right now. Does it actually lead to further declines? Right. So no, of course, there are so many people out there trying to forecast, well, where is the actual bottom, right? So those of you who have been following the news, even the likes of JP Morgan, they were pretty close to my level, or I should say I was pretty close to theirs. They think that the bottom was at 94K. Right, and right now we're just below 94K. I had highlighted 95K, close enough, and we had seen it actually before this live stream. Prices yesterday and up until before this live stream, they were really kind of doing battle around the 95K mark, right? In fact, it went up to as high today as let me see, 90. Well, there we go, 96,019, right? So it actually reclaimed 96 for a while, and then it just came back down. But this region is going to be a key battleground. Of course, we'll see whether prices capitulate, and that's because maybe enough people are reacting to the death cross. And also, we'll see what happens on the macro stage, meaning whether or not markets are actually quite fearful right now. And if we look at across the markets, right, say the S&P 500. Now, the S&P 500 is the benchmark stock index. A lot of people will rely on this one index to just answer the question, well, how are US stock markets performing overall? Okay, so again, this is the 1-day candlestick for the S&P 500. So you can see that prices are coming down slightly as well. So there is that risk of sentiment, but again, not much, right? So quite similar to what we're seeing with Bitcoin right now, a bit of indecision, or even the likes of gold. Gold right now also falling slightly, and we'll dive more into this bit, right? So there is this still this propensity to sell across these various asset classes, at least for the time being as we speak, but still nothing incredibly major right now, at least judging by this 1-day candlestick, unlike the ones that we've seen last week where prices just moved so fast to the downside after hitting that resistance around the 21-day simple moving average level that we had highlighted from a couple of weeks ago. Okay, feel free to check out the live streams that we have published before. Again, it's on the YouTube live tab on Bybit Learn's official YouTube channel, also on x.com. Again, look for Bybit_learn. Okay, so that's Bitcoin right there. Death cross. We'll see, and we've already outlined the two potential scenarios, the setups, either 89K to the downside because of the various reasons. Okay, I see a couple more. Oh, quite a few more have joined on YouTube. So 89K because number one, this is the pain point, the average buy-in price for basically those who had invested into Bitcoin ETFs. So this could be a market that they're looking, right? So imagine them just looking at their phone. Okay, they had bought at that price and they see their profits basically, well, if they I think this year Bitcoin had gone up to about 34% year to date, and then they see those profits just go thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, right? And they are approaching that line really quickly. They might have to ask themselves, well, okay, do I buy the dip? Do I try and pad up those profits, or do I actually sell, right? So I expect some pretty notable behavior, either buying or selling once we get to the 89K. But of course, this could be a potential setup here. Then to the upside, you need a daily close, a meaningful close above 100K to give bulls some breathing room. Okay, that's a quick recap of what we have just spoken about for Bitcoin for those of you who just joined. All right, now over to gold. Now this one, I know it looks a bit crumpled, but I will make this into a bigger chart for you. So here we go. All right. So again, markets move fast. So for those of you who have watched us before, you will know that I had highlighted this 40-40 to 42-56 range from November 11th. Okay, and here we are almost an entire week after. Right, and sure enough, gold has been respecting that range in the 1 week since. This is the 1 week forecasted trading range. So on Friday, it just touched 40-40 and then bounced right back up. support. Okay, so it's great to see that these levels that we had highlighted in the past actually being respected by what actually happens in the markets. Now, of course, to be very, very clear, none of this is trading advice. So please do your own research. As you can see on the wall, it's being covered by the by my title there. But yeah, DYOR, do your own research. Okay, this is not trading advice. Please do not misconstrue it as such. All right, these are just how I see the markets and some areas to highlight, keep a lookout for, and keep me in check, right, guys? You can refer to the previous live streams, refer to what we have written on the website, and then you can see whether or not markets react as we envision it. Of course, I'll be the first to say it's never 100% correct, but I like to think that hey, we have done at least a good enough job to keep you guys engaged and at least give you a lens or some perspective on what's happening in the market. Okay, and then to the upside, yeah, it got to, again, I think 0.3% of that 42.56 upside target there. So well done. Right now, finding support at the 21-day simple moving average. Again, I like to keep my technical analysis pretty clean, pretty straightforward. So relying on these widely used and pretty vanilla technical indicators that you can check out. Now, of course, here on Bybit, we got so many technical indicators that you can play around with, right? So you can just click on this icon here in the top left-hand corner, right? You hover it, it says indicators, and then you just click on it, and then you can just type in whatever you want. Moving averages, for example, so many different kinds. And then once you select it, you can also then further tweak the parameters for that technical indicator. But right now, right, not just Friday, but then also today, at least closing price still hovering above the 21-day simple moving average. So this will be crucial for support. Okay, now, like I said, 40, 40, 42, 56, those were, previous ones, a range that we had highlighted from over a week ago. So then I'm about to give you I'm about to adjust this range for this week. All right, so this one moves down to 42.15. All right, so here we go, and then we'll move this line down to 42.15 as well. Okay, and that's where I'm going to leave it, right? So I'll leave it quite nice. That's the resistance that we saw from Friday's price action. We'll see, and then we'll see if we can draw another green arrow if prices actually hit 42.15 again. But for now, remove it. Right, so 42.15 is the upper bound for the 1 week forecasted trading range, basically from now till next Monday. But of course, don't just wait until next Monday to check in. Right, we'll be doing these check-ins pretty much on a daily basis. Now to the downside, I'm going to update this range here. Again, I'm getting these numbers from the Bloomberg forecast model. Let me just get the number. Yeah, 3953. Here we go. So 3953. And that's where we're going to leave it intact. Let me just change this. This is some live charting here, folks. 3953. All right. And we'll see whether this range actually holds between now and next Monday. Okay. So, and then hopefully we can draw another arrow by then. Okay, and the arrow, of course, if you had noticed from prior, indicating that, hey, prices actually hit that resistance from a couple of weeks ago that we had highlighted, and then bounced back down. And sure enough, on Friday, 40.40 hits that and then bounces back up. Okay, 39.53, 42.15, those that's the new potential setup. Again, not trading advice, but we'll see if markets for spot gold actually respect this trading range for the next 1 week. Okay, so I said that we will pull this up in a table form, so let me just do that for you right now. Here we go. And this is what it looks like in table form. I'll just keep this on the screen here for a while. So again, gold 42.15 to the upside. Again, as long as that 21-day simple moving average keeps providing support, doesn't let prices fall below it, or at least close below it, right? And then to the downside, again, if you get a daily close below that 21-day simple moving average, then potential target 39.53. That's the bottom of the forecasted trading range for Bitcoin, right? Again, I know it's it may seem like a big ask right now, but hey, we know that crypto can be volatile. So I think getting here, spiking up to 100K, yeah, that may not be signal enough, right? I think the stronger signal will really come if you do secure this strong and meaningful close above 100K. Then we could look at the 21-day simple moving average as the potential target to the upside. To the downside, again, daily close below 94K, which is threatening to do right now. Then potential target like 89K, due to the various reasons that we had highlighted before. And again, if you missed it, right, you can just rewatch this, scroll earlier on, and I explained why I chose 89K, 21 simple moving average. Again, just for the simple reason of it's widely followed, so you expect lots of people to be keeping an eye on that particular technical indicator, which, by the way, right, it's moving. Yeah, it's a moving average, so that line keeps moving. So it may not change on a day-to-day basis. Okay. All right, so I think that's long enough for this table. I'll leave it on for a few more seconds. All right, moving on really quickly. All right, so now don't forget, we here at Buy a Bit Learn, we believe that, hey, learning in and of itself is all the reward you need, but of course you could use that sweetener. So we hear you, we deliver, right? So feel free to scan this QR code, or you can also find the link on the YouTube description for this particular live stream. Also on X, you can find that description, that link within our feed, right? You click on that link because those of you who sign up, right? I'm feeling generous. Christmas could come early here. I'm about to give your share of 25,000 USDT in rewards. You got to sign up, then go through that process, right? Do your KYC, or which is know your client, which is another way of saying that's how we verify your identity, just for added security for our clients as well, right? Go through that process. But even just for signing up, you could potentially earn your share of 25,000 USDT rewards. We have done one full week of these live streams, and already I've given out some of these rewards already last week, but we got so much more, right, to be given out. So feel free to grab your share of 25,000 USDT, which is the equivalent of $25,000 in rewards and more. Now, the reason I say more is because, okay, I'm going to get away from the screen. You can scan the QR code. If not, again, you can find it on X. For those on YouTube, you can just click on the link in the YouTube description, because now when you click on that link, let's move my calendar away. Where did it go? Hold on. Is this it? Here. Sorry, folks. I think I've lost my screen. Okay, look, this is live. This is when you know it's live here. Okay. Let me try and find, where did it go? There. Geez. Okay, here we go. Let's move away from this chart. So when you scan on the QR code, or when you click on the link, you will actually land on this page, right? And then you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see how every week we've got a new prize pool of this one, 5,000 USDT, right? On top of the 25,000 USDT pool that we have just for these live streams alone, right? So I've got that 25,000 to give away. And then when you scan the QR code and click on the link, you could come in here, or you will come in here, and you could stand a chance at this prize pool as well. Now, how you get this, and we've gotten some comments already about from X about people trying these different tasks. So well done to you, right? So you look at all these different tasks that we have here on the screen, right? Invite friends, trade with the bot, verify your identity, that's KYC, right? Deposit here, try different products that we have within the Bybit universe. All that could potentially earn you further rewards, right? And then look, keep us in check, like articles, share articles, right? So you can see some of these folks here who have on a weekly basis, just keep checking that leaderboard, right? See how you stack up against these guys, right? And we've got so many of them, up to 25 pages of them. So yeah, there we go. All right, so first things first, either click on that link or scan that QR code. Make sure you do that, and do that now. Okay. And then real quick, I want to show you some of the articles that we have published already, right? So you go to bybit.com. The way you get to the learn page is you hover over the learn icon right here. I hope you can see my screen. Yep, learn. Click on Bybit Learn. Now, for those of you who are using the app, it is one of the services. So you can, when you get to the Bybit app's homepage, just look under services, and then you can just look for Learn, right, among our many, many, many different services that we offer. So once you click on Learn, right, you'll end up on learn.bybit.com. Click on blog. All right. So we've got daily bits that we just published today, and today I've just published this. All right. So for this week, right, we've got November 17th to 21st, right? A quick recap of what has happened earlier today. See how quickly markets move. This morning I was writing markets up, but again, it's a bit dicey right now. But then all the way at the bottom, right, we have highlighted 3 different assets that I think you need to keep an eye on, right? Because there are some big events lined up and we have them spelled out for you. And we'll go over them in just a bit, right? From earnings to watching the Fed, and of course, Bitcoin's death cross. Okay. So that's all, available on the website. Again, go to bybit.com, click on the Learn tab. I'll just walk you guys through it again very quickly. Bybit.com, Learn, Bybit Learn, blog, daily bits, right? And then you can see every Monday I'll be publishing this, okay? 3 assets to watch this week. Just to kind of, again, like I said, help you fine tune, because there's so many things to look at in the markets, and there's so many opportunities, right? Like you might be thinking, okay, well, everything's going down. Well, I'm about to show you some stuff that's about to go up, right? Or at least going up right now, at least right before the live stream when I checked it, right? So, depending on how the asset behaves, some are going up, some are going down, right? It just means different things. And more importantly, you got to know where to look, right? So perhaps, on the Monday, right, first place to start is to check out the article that we, a week ahead preview that we publish on Mondays. Here's today's one. If you want some deeper insights, you can go to Crypto Insights. And this is a couple that were published last week. Recall, even before Bitcoin officially fell into that bear market. Now, bear market means that an asset, its price has fallen by 20% or more from its recent high. So using Bitcoin's closing prices on the daily charts, it officially hit that mark from Thursday going into Friday, right? So when that happened, we wrote this article, right? The quick explainer about where to for the bear market. And keep in mind, at that time, I think Bitcoin was still about 97K. And once again, it just, I had to highlight that 95K level. After the article was published and during the live stream or just before the live stream on Friday, that's when Bitcoin actually hit 95K as we expected from a couple of weeks ago. Okay. And even before that, we had already written this article about how even looking on November 13th, right, just looking at how the derivatives markets were positioned, there was a strong bearish sense, right? In other words, there's a notable sense that, hey, markets are about to fall further, right? That it wasn't over yet. So the positioning, at least in the derivatives space for cryptos, hasn't really changed much. ETF inflows are not really coming back in yet. So you need the fundamental spark to, really encourage people to come back into the markets and take risk. Right, take risk meaning they're willing to buy stocks, the riskier assets or cryptos, right? But we are not quite seeing that catalyst right now. So with that in mind, I'm just going to re-show this chart, this timeline, this list of events that we had shown from Friday. Okay, so here's what you're going to look out for this week. So again, we know that the US government has ended its shutdown, right? So now everyone's just waiting to hear if there's any news about, okay, well, when will you release all the data that we've missed out on? Right? The important jobs data for the world's biggest economy, or inflation data. Why? Because those two are the main 2 things that the US Federal Reserve, or you can call them the Fed, right, which is the world's most important central bank, they are keeping a close eye on this. Why? Because it's part of their KPI, it's their goals. Right? They have to make sure that the jobs market is supported or doesn't weaken too much, while at the same time, inflation doesn't go out of control again. Right? So they have to balance this too. And the main way to do that is by using interest rates. That's when they move it higher or keep it steady or move it down. Right? So this is so important because there's a big Fed decision coming up on December 10th. Right? So the sooner we can get all this kind of data, the more confident that markets are about what the Fed will do next. And then that's when they can adjust those prices accordingly across asset classes, gold, Bitcoin, stock markets, the works, right? Just as a rule of thumb, if you are not used to this Econs 101 stuff, just know this: all the assets that I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin, gold, stock markets, generally, as a rule of thumb, they love the idea of interest rates going down. Okay, so US interest rates go down, and it doesn't have to wait until it actually goes down. If markets think that they're going down already, these asset prices will typically bounce up. Okay, Bitcoin, gold, stock market. So perhaps for Bitcoin bulls, that can be the some saving grace, some measure of support, some fundamental reason to say, okay, well, hey, maybe with this data and we see the jobs market weakening, the Fed has to lower interest rates to come and support it. I'm going to move now, right? Before the Fed even does anything on December 10th, okay? Then still on the Fed watch, right? 8 Fed officials are doing 11 speeches over the course of this week. So like we saw last week, right? That's when, because of these Fed speeches, partially or in big part, that's why markets adjusted their expectations for that December rate cut. Previously, you go to like a month ago, markets thought, yeah, it's a done deal. The Fed will have to cut interest rates in December, right? But coming to last week, some of these Fed officials were saying, well, maybe not. Maybe we have to kind of wait and see for more data before we can actually cut interest rates again, right? So look out for those Fed speakers and clues about what they might do for the December Fed meeting. Okay. USJPY, yeah, I forgot to show this chart. I'll show it to you guys in just a bit, right? To hit a 10-month high. This is one of the assets that was climbing. Right, it was actually climbing up until earlier today. We'll check that chart in just a bit. Earlier today already, there's some GDP data. See, it came in. It was weak, but it wasn't as weak as expected. Right, so that's something that markets took on board with. But right now, you've got the dollar rebounding, so USD JPY is going up. But on November 21st, right, this Friday, there's another big data to keep an eye on for the inflation figures for Japan. So that's due on Friday, November 19th. FOMC minutes. All that is like meeting minutes from the Fed's meeting back in October. Its last meeting. So I got to update this now. So markets actually now expect, I believe, let me just get you some live numbers here. Markets are now expecting only a 41% chance now. So no longer 50-50 from last Friday. Now it's only a 41% chance that the Fed will cut interest rates in December. All right, I'll update that for tomorrow's live stream. But Nvidia, well, here you go, right? This is the world's most valuable company. It's a name that you guys all know and love. It's the AI poster child. They've got their earnings due after US markets close on Wednesday, right? So as things stand, markets predict a 6.4% move up or down after the earnings is released. And let me just get you some updated numbers to make sure it is still 6.4%. I'm just checking my Bloomberg terminal here, and it is, 6.45%, right? That's what markets predict. So we'll see. And because of its sheer size, right, looking at some markets have just opened for 3 minutes. Nvidia's market cap is still about $4.5 trillion, right? Because it's so big and because it's in so many of these major indices like the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500. These are indices that measure, think of indices as a way of measuring something, right? And for these stock indices, they're measuring these baskets or groups of stocks. Nvidia, because of its size, right, is a big part of each of those baskets, NASDAQ 100 and S&P 500, both of which you can find on Bybit. Just got to click on the TradFi page, right? So because it's so big, Nvidia, it could move the entire index as well. Okay, so something that you really have to watch out for. So whether or not the AI fervor can keep sending US stock indices higher, or does Nvidia signal that, perhaps things are cooling down for the AI space, all right? So coming back to the charts here real quick. Let me show you USD JPY here real quick. All right, so these are the range that we had highlighted from last Friday, because on Friday's live stream, I gave a week ahead preview. All right, so Don't believe me? Go check it out, right? So 156 for the upper bound, and then 151.9 or 152 for the lower bound. But you see, again, this is the 1 day candlestick, right? So each of these blocks or candlesticks represents how the dollar and the yen fared against each other on a single day basis. So right now it's going up, right? 155, that big round number, acting as a psychologically important resistance level, right? If nothing else, for the simple way of asking, well, if I'm a trader, I'm going to ask myself, well, does the yen deserve to weaken against a dollar above 155, right? So it's easier to envision things in big round numbers, hence 155 acting as this psychological resistance that we've seen since the middle of last week, since November 12th, right? Right now, it's still doing its part. A daily close above it, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 156, which could be a 10-month high. We haven't seen 156 since late January here. And here we are in the final throes of November. That's to the upside, but to the downside, again, from a technical perspective, if you have a daily close below that 14-day simple moving average, which had been a strong support really for the past so far this month, right? See support bounce at hits the support, bounce up, hits the support, bounce up. Right. So if there's a daily close below this 14-day simple moving average, then the lower bound would be around 152 or 151.9. But, again, this would require a severe weakening of the US dollar coupled with or massive strengthening in the yen. Okay. So yen stronger against the dollar, USD JPY goes down. Okay. Dollar stronger against the yen, USD JPY goes up. Okay. And you have already seen some of the key events that we have got highlighted. Friday, CPI, that's inflation. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. That's for Japan, due out this Friday. US CPI, yeah, we all love to hear. Let me see if we've got any breaking news about, any news out of the US government about some potential dates here. Not really seeing anything right now. Okay, cool. Let me just do a quick check here, folks. It's dollar yen. Yeah, okay, cool. I think that's where we are at. Oh, okay. Here, how about this? Breaking news. Yeah, for those of you watching on YouTube and X, well done you. So, let me update this. The jobs report is due Thursday. Wow. Okay. Breaking news here, folks. So the U.S. jobs report will be released this Thursday. I'm just trying to find more information. So that's 1 hour before U.S. markets open. So looks like our live stream on Thursday may have to be pushed forward by an hour. Okay, so we'll try and start at 1 p.m. GMT. So that kind of gives us a half an hour heads up leading into the live data, and then we will see how markets react. Right. So this is important, right? Because the Fed and markets have been kind of flying blind, just kind of guessing where things have been headed to. But then hopefully we'll get more clarity about the state of the U.S. jobs market. And we will find that out on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Washington time, Washington, D.C. time. Okay. Wow. How about that? Breaking news. That's a throwback to my TV and radio days. Okay. So that's something to look out for. I'll be updating the PowerPoint or the slides that I showed you earlier to take that into account. Well, if nothing else, I already told you guys from Friday, right? Hey, look out for any information about when the U.S. government might resume some of their data releases. Okay, so, well, just maybe one quick check. So you got the dollar strengthening against the yen right now, really testing that 155 psychological level. Let's check in on Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin, here we go, right? You see, just turning around, still not wanting to let go of 95K, right? Now 95.64, 95.6, right, as we speak. So, yeah, maybe, see, right? Maybe markets are cheering the fact, okay, like we don't have to fly blind anymore. Like maybe we can get some consolation from a weakening U.S. jobs market. Consolation, of course, not from the fact that people are losing jobs, but hey, the Fed may have to step in sooner to help save the U.S. job market by lowering interest rates. Bitcoin loves that, so it's rebounding right now. How about that for some breaking price action? And then gold versus dollar. Yeah, I know this was the full screen chart. Yeah. So still hovering above that 21-day and also the 9-day simple moving average, just kind of hanging out there for now. Okay. All right, cool. I think that's it for today. Don't forget to make sure you scan the QR code because we have that 25,000 USDT that I really want to give away. I've been giving away some, but not enough. Like not enough of you are claiming it. I would like to get this out all before Christmas or before Thanksgiving, even, so that you can have this nice little goodie. But again, first things first, you do have to make sure that you scan the QR code that we have here on the screen, or just click on the link that we have in the YouTube description or on our X feed. Okay, again, this is Bybit Learn. Look for the Bybit official platforms. Thank you all so much for joining. I know we're about 10 minutes after, but no worries. Any comments? Not seeing any on YouTube. Let me just do a quick check on X here. Yeah, well, thank you for those of you who liked the post, and well, for those of you who also liked the little meme video that I just posted there, make sure that you give it a thumbs up as well. Just checking, are these any comments? No likes. Thank you. But then, yeah, you guys like this, right? That's how fast markets. I'm showing this video before. I don't know. I'm not showing the audio right now, but you can see the guy like that was basically me last week. All right. So yeah, make sure you do all that. And I will see you again tomorrow. This will be 2 p.m. GMT. But as we saw, breaking news. Thursday is one. I think we'll move it forward to 1 p.m. GMT so that we can catch some live data for the just announced U.S. jobs report that will be released this Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Washington, D.C. time. But we'll start half an hour before that. That'll be 1 p.m. GMT. So see you guys around. We'll do this every day. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. GMT, same